Okay, and we are live and on the air. So, welcome everyone to this is the second last leg of what has been a pretty decent marathon. 32 hours of nothing but wall-to-wall atheist content over Christmas Eve, Christmas, and Boxing Day, depending on whereabouts on this beautiful planet you are. So, I'm Chris. I'm the atheist pastor. For those who haven't met me, I'm clearly not from the US. I'm an Australian YouTuber, fairly new to the scene still. I produce content relating to obviously atheist issues. So we discuss religion, a little bit of politics, a little bit of, social commentary and issues. And on a Friday night, we get a group of Aussies, including our honorary Aussie here, Jay, together and have a couple of drinks and talk about whatever's on our minds. So that's a little bit of an introduction for me. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also go back and have a look at all the other people who have been doing this, this project over Christmas. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for them as well, because one thing that's very important, for all of us in the atheist community is to be able to share a variety of content and get as much information as we can out there so we can hopefully reach those who need to hear our voice, whatever our message is. So I'm just going to do a big welcome to Jay, who is also known as ETC. How are you, Jay?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Mate, sensational. Hey, we've got Recovering Catholic who has just finished a stream, so I'm going to give you props for doing a 2-hour stream and then popping on another one. So absolute props there. Yeah. So welcome. So Jay, real quickly, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Jay. I'm from ETC, formerly known as And the Conspiracy. I do woo videos, mainly look at different conspiracies and whatnot. I have a stream every Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, where I usually get a group of people together. Chris has been on a couple times. Usually Jen, who's not here, she's the resident sidekick who talks way too much. And we look at different videos. This week's video is Disney Necromancy Exposed. So that's the one we're going to be dipping into. That'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I know that Disney has a miraculous ability to take money because they cost me a lot of money over Christmas. I've got 3 kids, and the amount of money that Disney got from me, I'd hate to think about it. Hello, Lavender Lady. How are you?
Hi, I'm there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and how is you and stuff and things? And
it's about 35 degrees in the Celsius range, so I think that's close to 100.
Oh my god!
So, yeah, pretty darn close.
Yep. So it's a beautiful day.
95, 96. Yeah.
Yep. Middle of the day here and loving it. So we'll move across. So Recovering Catholic. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. I mean, most people have probably come across from your stream anyway, but just for those who are watching in the future.
Yes, I actually, that was my first stream ever, and it's the only video that I have on my YouTube channel right now that isn't of me singing. Falling over there. But I've actually done a couple videos with Big Milzabub, Bubba, about my experiences with Life Team, specifically at the Steubenville conference, which is
so that was your first stream you just did before.
Yeah.
Well, my hat goes off to you because I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Like a seasoned pro. So.
Thank you.
And whereabouts? So I'm going to guess somewhere in North America. I'm always careful because I know I insult Canadians when I ask if they're from the US. So I'll just say North America. Whereabouts in roughly in North America are you from?
Roughly in New York.
That pretty specific.
Oh, America.
So check this out, Chris. You're the only oddball out this time. Not me.
I'm always the oddball out. I'm used to it. It's
usually it's me with a bunch of Aussies. Now it's you with a bunch of Americans.
And hey, for the first time I think ever since we've spoken, I'm completely sober and haven't had a drink. So look out.
Oh, crap.
Time zones. They're wonderful things.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to Lavender Lady in a second. So I guess, look, there's a couple of things I thought we could do today. I guess I wanted to have a chat about a couple of Christmassy things, but also talk about some non-Christmassy things too. And I guess I wanted to start off by sharing something that happened to myself and my family yesterday. And I am going to start on a little bit of a somber note, I guess, but I think it's something that can start a fairly important conversation, I guess, for people in the community who are probably having a rough time at the moment. So yesterday we had a situation where at around about 8:30 in the morning, we actually lost a family member. So we had it was my wife's grandmother passed away. It was something that was expected, obviously not expected on the day, but she'd been unwell for quite a while. And it was a bit of an interesting situation for us because, well, I say interesting, but it was a bit of a surreal sort of feeling because it was a happy day being Christmas. The kids had opened their presents, were going and seeing other family, had a fairly sort of extensive day planned. And there's a lot of, I guess we're very lucky in Christmas for us is a positive experience every year. But it was sort of marred by this sadness at the same time. And I know, so I guess from seeing a lot of the comments on Twitter, YouTube, I see that there's a lot of people who do suffer with this time of year, I guess, and memories and missing loved ones. And I know that when I guess you're coming from a religious point of view, and my wife's grandmother was religious, so I guess the feeling was, well, she's gone to a better place. And for us, this was actually our first loss really since we've become atheist. So it was a bit of a different feeling as well. So I guess I just wanted to throw it out there and talk to everyone about how we deal with, I guess, sadness and loss at this time of year, and I guess ways that we can support each other during that, because I know I gave as much love and support to my wife as I could, but it was certainly a new experience for me. So yes, I guess I'd like to open it up, I guess, to start the conversation. So I might go around. Jay, any thoughts or?
Well, I deal with loss. But the way I deal with loss is, the initial grieving process, and then I kind of took it away. I let it out. And then, like I said, I usually just tuck it away and go about, try to be there for other people. I do my initial grievings usually by myself. And then, like I said, I try to stand strong for the rest of the family. So that's how I deal with it. I don't bottle it up and keep it in. I do my grieving that I need to do, and then I, be there for others.
Okay. So, that's a subject after my own heart.
Yep. Well, I'll open it up to you.
I lost my dearest friend in all the world back in September. And none of this gone to a better place or anything. I mean, he's dead. He's gone. He's a memory. Mm-hmm. But you think about what you had, he was still around. And, what you can keep with you now. I don't know if you're familiar with Cy Strike. His YouTube channel was, it still is really a blue debunking, anti-science debunking channel. He force behind it. Beautiful man, dearly loved him.
When I first started, he was one of the first streams I was ever on. He invited me on, and it was a great experience. It was hard to hear him go.
Yeah, it was. To give you an idea of what this guy was like, I have kidney problems, and I had to get a biopsy at one of the local hospitals, and they wanted that I should have someone take me there, sit there while I was there, and then bring me home, because they wouldn't trust me with the, being under anesthesia and all this other happy shit. No one here in Pittsburgh could or would give me a hand there. So Jeff basically told me, okay, I'll take you. I said, Jeff, you play skee ball with God at Asbury Park. Okay, because He lived in New Jersey at the time. You're going to have to drive 350 miles just to get to me to take me there. I said, yeah, I know. When do you want me there? And it's what is wrong with you, man? But we had a beautiful day of it. Took me up there. He sat there and got bored waiting while I went through the thing. And then on the way back here, we stopped at Burgatory and had one of those Impossible Burgers and sat around talking and shit and everything else. 36 hours later, he's dead. So, got to have some of those last few hours. So I had the procedure on Monday, and he was dead Wednesday morning. We had talked the night before. He was going to come back out here because I was informed that the local KFCs were doing a special. They had a sandwich consisting of a piece of chicken between two glazed donuts. He was going to come out here, and we were going to sample it for science, which of course never happened. But I mean, he was that kind of guy, the kind of guy who would drive 350 miles just to spend a day with a friend.
And I think it's important to hang on to those memories, isn't it? It's, I guess it's nice that you're able to look back on it. And I guess as much as, we don't believe in a better place, I think people do exist on so long as you remember them. Yeah. I don't think you can ever truly be gone so long as you're remembered.
That's my whole thing. I mean, I'll tell people, atheist I may be, but I hold the concept of an afterlife, which is the memories of us
absolutely
held by people who knew us. So Jeff is in heaven, and the slimy bastards are burning in a hell of their own making. The slimy bastards being the people who picked me off the rack at the baby store.
The sperm donor in the incubator.
I'm actually, my sister and I both were adopted. And this is what really got to me is that, oh, yeah, we wanted you. We loved you. And they treat us like that. So that's another story entirely. But it just gives you an idea of the difference between heaven and hell. And yes, absolutely, Doorknob Head. Jeff is in heaven, the perfect form of peace. The only person in the world whose lap was immediately occupied by Sylvia, my kitty. Everyone else, when she would first meet them, she would be a little bit standoffish for maybe an hour or two. Jeff, right into his lap. And it's like, okay, she knew something,
Animals tend to be pretty good judges of character, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
Except for my neighbour's dog, who barks at me constantly. or maybe it is a good judge of character, and there's something I'm missing. I don't know.
There you go. At least you said it, not I. And I see Purple is here in the audience. How you doing, sweetness?
And actually, speaking of Purple, I just want to do a real quick shout out to Purple because I guess putting this whole thing together, it's actually been quite amazing. And I know that there's been a couple of hiccups here and there, but it's for what's actually been put together.
Yeah.
The effort that's gone into it, and I'm pretty sure Purple doesn't sleep because every stream, regardless of the time, I'm pretty sure Purple's been in. So I guess I'd just like to, on behalf of myself and the atheist community, just throw out a big thank you. So thank you, Purple. And yes, I will absolutely send you a link to come in. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah. It's honestly a genius idea, though. Like,
it is.
To do something like this.
Mm-hmm. There was something like this last year, wasn't there? Not quite as long, though.
Well, I know that Nacha and I did a stream. We simulcast a stream. I don't know how many other people did. I'm assuming there were a few. Because it was his first Christmas. after escaping the J-Dubs. And we wanted to do something special for that first Christmas for him. So we had that stream together. Well, I think during I think that Angie may have started more than one.
Yeah, maybe that's
Already.
the one I was thinking of.
There
There's
we go.
Purple.
Love it when the stream gets bigger.
Hey, sweetness.
Yeah, someone's got sound in the background. Cool. So I guess moving on, another thing I did want to have a chat about is
Yes, dear.
this whole thought that the Christians or religion owns Christmas, and I think we can debunk that because and it's good that we've got a bit of I'll say international stream, but I think I might be the token international here. Apologies to any Canadians. Yeah, I'm the odd one out. Like I said, I'm used to it. So I guess I want to have a chat about national or community traditions for Christmas that each of us might have. I think things that separate our societies and point out. I'm not too sure who's got the sound in the background, but I can hear myself, and it's really a bit odd actually.
So is it me here?
Not too sure. Sorry, I was just getting this little echo in the background. That's better. So I guess talk about the things that make us different, but that show that as a global community and as a world atheist movement, we can show that hey, we've got all these things that are different. That Christmas isn't for the religious. It can be for us too. So I guess I can kick it off. And here in Australia, we've got Boxing Day is a big day. It's a big sporting day for us. So we've got two major events that happen today. So you guys probably won't know too much about cricket, but we've got what's called the first little. Yep, we've got the first. Well, funnily enough, the first ever cricket test match was played between the USA and Canada. So it's probably. Yeah, we probably claim it as ours, but it's probably more yours, unfortunately. So we've got the Boxing Day test. So test match is a 5-day game of cricket that goes, and pretty much the entire country will at some point sit and watch and celebrate, have it on in the background while we have a barbecue, do something like that. And the other thing we've got is what's called the Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race, which starts in Sydney Harbour and ends in a few days, or depending on how quick they are, in Hobart, which is, once again, it's the Sydney Harbour will get packed with people watching the yachts racing out to sail, and it's always a bit of a nice thing. It's a bit of an Australian Christmas tradition. So I guess to throw over to you guys, what kind of traditions have you got there is everyone from the US here, just to be clear, or do I have any Canadians?
I'm from the US. Jay, you are, and Purple's from Michigan, so that's a totally different country. But,
I'm working on it. I'm trying to get Canada to annex the Upper Midwest.
Yeah, if you talk to us Michiganders, I'm a troll and she's a Youper. He's a Youper. Because I live below the bridge and Purple lives above the bridge.
Well,
So-
except for where my taxes go,
Yeah.
for all practical purposes, I'm northeastern Wisconsin.
So I'm guessing Wisconsin is next to Michigan. Is that right?
Well, Lake Michigan is in between the main part of Michigan and Wisconsin.
Mhm.
So the Upper Peninsula is a piece of land that Michigan got as a consolation prize because they lost an argument with Ohio.
yeah.
Sounds very convoluted.
Yeah, that's the actual history. I'm not making that up. That's not a joke.
So I know about Michigan because that's where the Beverly Hills Cop comes from.
Yeah, that's
Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detroit.
Yep. So and lots of cars. I'm a
Motor
Ford
City.
man.
Motor City.
So what traditions have you guys got? I guess in Michigan. Is there anything in Michigan that's different? I guess from the rest of the US, or something we wouldn't have in other parts of the world?
We just go over to my mom's house and the whole family just gets together, open presents, talk, eat a bunch of food.
Well, the day after Christmas is half-price candy day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
And
see,
actually,
the cool thing is if you're smart about it, You buy the bags of Hershey's Kisses that are in the red, green, and silver wrappers. And then after Christmas, you just separate out the colors. See, because you use the silver ones for New Year's, you use the red ones for Valentine's Day, and you use the green ones on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
There you
Perfect.
are. There you are.
And is that like a chocolate Hershey's Kisses or?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent. We actually do have the big Boxing Day sales here too. So all the department stores get absolutely bombarded. I actually went out before and bought a new bed at half price. So it's a bit of an Australian tradition to go and buy something on Boxing Day after we've blown all our money over Christmas, of course. So we're right into the consumer thing here. But so what about you, recovering Catholic? You're in New York.
Yes.
What happens in New York? What's the big thing in New York that's different from everywhere else in the US, or something you think might be unique to your part of the world?
My family is still mostly religious based, but personally, like, I know we value, like, I don't know, I guess like a lot of handmade gifts and stuff, just because it's so easy here to just like get things shipped. So, but we try and keep things thematic. And I know my family in particular, they have this little game at my grandmother's house where you have to find an ornament that is shaped like a pickle. And
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
gift. Yes.
Yeah.
Shaped
This
like a
year-
pickle.
Huh?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a pickle ornament. And my cousin actually got it within like 9 seconds this year, which meant that he got a bag of candy and then $5. But we,
Good deal.
I don't know. There's a lot of snow, but we get to go out and see the lights, which is great. And we drive around because there are some families that do very extravagant lights here.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one family where they have 3 different mangers set up, and they have lights and decorations covering the front, the side, and then the backyards. And it's insane. Plus, we also have a friend who hand carves and paints lawn decorations, representing everything from Disney characters to like the classic Christmas movies. He has the entire setup of like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer characters from Misfit Island. So it's really nice to go and like see some of the creative ways that people do that sort of stuff. And then I guess another thing in particular with my family is my mother and I both have astigmatism and really crappy vision. So we like to go find the multicolored lights and then take our glasses off because it makes them all like burst out. It's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Fortunately, I guess, because she doesn't want to lose her vision, she's getting surgery and they're going to be correcting her astigmatism. So now I'll be the only one that can enjoy it.
You know, we got a guy just over a couple blocks away where I live. He lives right behind the church, and his house is like that. I mean, every inch of it's
Yeah.
covered in lights and blow up things.
Oh.
It's just like I want to see what his electric bill is, because holy crap! Because
Yeah.
he does the same
Yeah.
thing. He does the same thing during Halloween.
Yeah.
He's got so many different blow up things and statues with lights, and I mean, he goes all out. We talked to him on Halloween. He's got 2 storage units that he rents out that holds all the direct decorations, for one for Christmas and one for Halloween. It's
That's
just-
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they do it anymore, but when I was a girl, I used to ride around some of the wealthier neighborhoods. I lived in Cleveland when I was growing up, and where the money was, these people would compete with each other to see who could spend more on Christmas decorations. And these people would spend literally thousands of dollars on the decorations, on the electricity to run them. They would have pros come in to set the houses up and everything. You'd have these 3/4 acre lawns totally full of lighted decorations and mechanical decorations and all this other happy stuff. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, why? they could buy some pretty damn good booze for what they're spending on these decorations. And then, Recovering Catholic, you mentioned the pickle. I had totally forgotten about that. My ex grew up with that.
Yeah.
Her family was Pennsylvania German.
Yep.
They came from
German
Northwest New
in the
Jersey. Now, what I grew up with was when you cut your natural Christmas tree, if there was a bird's nest in it, that was good fortune for you.
Ooh.
Not for the bird.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, by that time, the bird most likely had vacated. But not always. But yeah.
Yeah, but if they have to make a new nest in the middle of winter, that's not fun.
Well, in the area of Ohio where I grew up, which was right on the shore of Lake Erie, the prime nest building season was in March. So these would be
if they were
nests that had been
songbirds,
empty
they'd
for a
probably
while.
flown south for the winter by then.
Oh, there's the other thing though. Just moving a few miles. I grew up in Cleveland. I now live in Pittsburgh. And I know. I came out here to be with somebody and it lasted a year and I couldn't afford to leave. So here I am after 31 years. But where was I going with this? Moving here. I live under a major migratory route. I had never, ever seen as many birds as I had since I came here. I mean, in Cleveland, you got the sparrows, you got the starlings, not much else, maybe the occasional crow. Out here, you get everybody. You get the goldfinches, you get the cardinals and the jays, and you get the hummingbirds that you have here. Totally amazing. This was all new for me. It's a really wonderful thing. My ex put up a birdhouse in her backyard, and everybody who would come to visit that birdhouse, it was amazing. And so that's the good stuff. And then of course, I grew up in an Eastern European family. At the Christmas dinner, we would pass around the oplatki, which were rectangular wafers made of the same garbage that they make the Jesus crackers out of.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's a rectangular Jesus cracker essentially, and you'd pass it around, and everybody would break a piece off of every cracker, and then you'd all eat them. It was a sort of a.
I mean, they're bad.
thing.
It doesn't matter where in the world you are; they are terrible. Those things. You need the wine to wash them down.
Yep, and then of course there's the football. Not real football, but the American football. And the uncles would sit around the television watching football all day while the rest of us solved puzzles or whatever, those 5,000 piece puzzles with the one I haven't done yet, and someday I can't do it with Sylvia around. But have you ever worked the puzzle with like 1,500 pieces, which is a solid color?
No, I've never done the solid color one.
Those will kill you.
That's just cruel and unusual.
Say again?
My mom used to put them together when we were kids, and then she'd glue them and like hang them up on the wall.
Okay. Yeah, a friend of mine would do those puzzles, especially he loved the really, really difficult puzzles, like the black cat against a black background and all this other happy stuff. And wow.
She always said, if I'm going to spend this much time putting it together, it's going on the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. The one I really liked, it was a fad for a while, and unfortunately, I can't find them anymore. They were two-sided puzzles. Each side had a picture. So, one I remember was a cartoon version of a baseball game, and on the other side was a football game. And figuring out which side of which piece to put where, was a bunch of fun. It really was. If you like pain.
Yeah, you were saying before about the Christmas lights, and one that I'll always remember from St. Paul was there was this one house that was just all decked out, like every square inch of the front yard, every tree was completely covered in lights.
Oh,
And the house next door to them just took a single string of blue lights and made an arrow in the window pointing over. It's like, yeah, we're not competing with this.
Yeah.
Look there.
perfect. There was somebody actually this year that we saw, and they had set up. They had started the line of lights across their roof, and then they had some decorations in the front yard. But one of them, the string of lights connected to, and it was the Grinch, and so they were making it look like the Grinch was taking down their house's lights.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Another one that there was in St. Paul that we went by every year because it kept growing, that the guy recruited the neighbors because he ran out of space. And by the time I left there in 2008, it was spread across 3 lawns.
They all threw into the pot for the electric bill.
Yeah.
So in Australia here, it's a fairly big tradition that a lot of people will do the big Christmas display, and normally it's entire streets that will get in on it. So if there's like a cul-de-sac, for instance, you might have 20 houses in the street, and they all go over the top. But it actually becomes something that the few days before Christmas, people will walk up and down the street and sort of watch it and have a look at it and sort of get photos. It's a bit of I actually thought that was a bit of an international tradition. So it's interesting to hear that it's maybe not as common as I thought.
The one thing I wish I could do, I live in an apartment building, so there's a lot of stuff I can't do because the landlord won't let us. But I would really, really love to put together a Luminaria display. The bags filled with sand, and you stick a candle in there, and you do the whole thing with those instead of with Christmas lights. But unfortunately, really not able to do that sort of thing. Someday before I die, maybe.
Yeah, I've kind of felt the same way, that I would like to put something up, but living on the 2nd floor in an apartment, nobody's going to see anything I do.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, maybe you're lucky because you won't have the costs. You won't have to go through all the stress and effort. I know it can be a fairly stressful thing for people. I know some of the people who do it, especially where it's the street ones, it actually becomes a big stress for them. It's something they don't necessarily want to do. They still do it, but you might have dodged the bullet there, so to speak.
Yeah, that's when you're talking about like a whole cul-de-sac or that doing it. I can see, that's kind of fun as a neighborhood event, but if you really don't want to participate, there'd be a lot of pressure too.
You're stuck into it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that sort of thing, you really have to like your neighbors. And if it turns out that at least some of the neighbors are arseholes, then it doesn't go so well.
No, definitely not.
But oh well.
So
I had to get rid of a lot of my Christmas decorations. I live in a small apartment, and I have no place to put them.
No.
On the off season, especially, you have to be able to store this stuff, and don't have the money for offsite storage. And if I try to put it up, Sylvia won't leave it alone. The last time I tried to put up a tree, she disassembled the entire thing before my very eyes, and I finally got to the point, I guess I just can't. So I got a couple strings of garland and little things, but don't do it the way I used to. And then when Jeff died, the last of it got kicked out of me. So, it's like, okay, Merry Wednesday.
Oh. Yeah. But hey, you have us this year. Get to hang out here.
Is that a good thing?
Well, that was
I don't
kind
know
of the
these
whole
guys,
point
but
of
I'm
this
all
thing.
I don't know. You guys put up with me.
When was the last time you got to spend Christmas with an Aussie? Or a few, actually, over the day?
Well, last year, but
Could be a
Well,
good thing
I
or a
did-
bad thing. I'm not too sure yet.
I did not have the entire day with Notcha last year, but we did the
good
stream
point.
together.
Yeah, well,
and,
I think Nacho ran 8 or 9 hours last year because it was his first Christmas and he wanted to get everyone in there.
mhm.
Yeah, but there is the question as to whether Notcha is real.
Nacho is real, but until I hear him without the voice modulator, I insist he's a 15-year-old boy.
Well, that raises a few questions then, doesn't it? That doesn't it? So I guess moving on, and I guess to keep it a bit lighthearted as far as Christmas, I think every Christmas we all get some nice presents, and there's always that one dodgy present that you smile and you grit your teeth as you open it. So I was going to throw it around and say, what present?
No, you're stealing my topic.
Am I?
I already announced that for my show that's starting in an hour that I was going to go with the best and worst present you've ever received.
I'm absolutely going to leave that alone then and find something else to move on
Thank
to.
you. Otherwise, I got nothing. All the other topics I had written down, somebody's already done.
What was that
Yeah,
one
I've
last
had the
night?
same problem.
Last night we started talking about movies, and they were like, "No, that's for Kate's stream. You can't be talking about."
Yeah.
Like, oh crap! All right, move on to the next one.
I think that might have been me actually. But, all fun. All right. Well, in that case, that throws me for a little bit of a 6, but that's okay. We can keep going. Okay. So I guess another thing I did want to talk about is ways that as a community we can be a kinder and accepting community in 2020. So what things can we do to I guess make people feel more welcome and maybe even reach out to people who aren't in our community and give them a better impression. One thing I've picked up on is, two things I've picked up on, I guess, in my introduction to the community in probably the last 12 to 18 months, is there's a big emphasis on politics and needing to be on a certain side of politics. And there's also and there also seems to be a big push against, and I know we all do it when we first deconvert, the attack on the religious or anyone who seems to be religious or has religious thoughts. Now, I guess the reason I bring this up is I don't sit on the generally accepted side of politics for the atheist community. I tend to be right-leaning, and I noticed when I first came in, it was a little bit of an uncomfortable experience for me because I sort of felt like I was isolated in an isolated community. But then as I spoke to people, I discovered that no, that's not the case. But it did take a while for me to get to that point where I was having conversations. And the other thing, I guess, as far as the religious people, I remember, and I was someone who was training to be a pastor, and I was very genuine about my thoughts. And I don't think I was a bad person, although when I looked at what the Bible says and some views I may have held then, I accept that those views were wrong. But it's also, I think it's we tend to go on the attack against the religious a lot without sort of maybe using it as an opportunity to explain, I guess, concepts and situations that they may not understand, either because they haven't been exposed to it or because the only exposure they've had is from a pulpit where someone's telling them that it's against the God they believe in. So I guess I just wanted to throw out, it's what can we do to be a kinder community in 2020?
Wow.
For me,
not easy.
Don't attack the person. A lot of them don't understand what's going on. And when you attack the person themselves, you're not solving anything. If you go and you try and respectfully explain the situation to them, you'll get a lot better response than just going, nuh-uh. Then you start sounding like flat earthers and, the fundamentalists. And, we've got a lot of the community needs to try and pull away from that is my thought. Don't just attack, try to explain and be kind about it.
Because I know, and I guess I'll just do a quick throw around just so I guess I get where everyone's at. I know where I guess Jay's at with religion, but I'll get you for the sake of the stream just to obviously explain where you're at, how long, or your background really quickly.
I was never religious, but I did struggle with faith, I guess is the best way to put it. I looked for a sense of meaning. So I did look into polytheism, Christianity, Judaism, whatnot, and I found that in Buddhism, a lot of their philosophies fit with my lifestyle already. So I moved into that. My biggest thing there, though, I am a Buddhist, but I'm a secular Buddhist. I don't believe in any of the supernatural stuff. I don't believe in heaven, God, deities, anything like that. But their philosophy on how to live your life hits really well with me. So that
With the whole eightfold way thing and everything, or okay.
Yeah. Your mind is when you say it out loud, it sounds funny, but your mind is there, but your mind is not there. And once you understand that concept, you can move forward better in your life, so to speak. Like I said, it's hard to talk, to express it. Like there is no anger. It's the only anger that you bring upon yourself. You don't have to be an angry person. You don't have to be a hateful person. There's a whole lot to go into with it. But so when I come across fundamentalist Christians or fundamental Muslims or anybody like that, I start off being respectful and going, no, this is not what happened. And if they continue staying respectful, I'll have a nice conversation. But the minute they start turning hateful, I guess, or extremely preachy, then that's when I start dropping the no, listen. And
it's definitely one thing to have a conversation, but I think when people start to go down that hateful path, I think they have to be called out for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's where I sit. I try to have a respectful conversation, and when you start getting crazy, then I'm going to start dropping the hammer down more firmly, so to speak.
Now, recovering Catholic, it kind of gives away what your background might have been, or you're very, very tricky on. You've got us all. So
she's Jewish.
There you go. I was going to go with Mormon, but so how long have you been out of religion? I guess.
Out of religion, as in stopping going to church, probably around the time that I went to college, which was in 2013. But I started pulling away when I was about 16, 17, so about 2 years prior to that, a year prior to that.
And do you still have and if any of these questions, by the way, are things you don't want to answer, I will take no offense if you just say move on to someone else. But I guess, do you still have a religious family, or is that something you still deal with?
I still have a religious family, but especially after my family is very understanding. I'm very lucky with that. At least my parents and the relatives I'm very close with. And they definitely were like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that's you. And then when I went on to explain further, like some of the things that a particular youth group I was in had done, they were even further understanding of my rejection of religion, or at least organized religion, as they were like, oh yeah, that sounds horrifying. We don't blame you for that. Because I don't know if you or anyone else here had seen the videos that I made with Females Above on Life Teen and the Steubenville conference.
Yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, it was intense and it was a lot, but I still stayed, and that had lasting effects. But I'm out now, and I'm still trying to deal with it via therapy and everything. So
Doorknob Head makes an excellent point, which for him to make a serious point is kind of rare. But
It is kind of rare, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
just that when you're talking to them, to avoid using you, that you don't personalize it, so that you keep it so that it's about the beliefs and it's not about the person or their group.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now,
Or like you
I-
talk about specific events that occurred you to get to this point, and not something where it's, it's because of people like you. It's no, these were some events that happened to me based in religion, if those are reasons that you leave, for example.
yeah, before we move on to somebody else, there was one thing I did forget to mention is my family are Wiccan, pagan, Christian, spiritualist, Buddhist. So I didn't grow up in a religion.
Yeah.
So I'm
Lucky
not coming
you.
from the place where a lot of other people come from. I wasn't there. I didn't grow up with it.
That's
So
amazing. That's
I
great.
look at it. I see myself as a different perspective because I wasn't taught this growing up. That this is how it is. This is the way it always is, and I see it from the outside perspective, so I can see it from a different point of view.
And I wish more people were exposed to that as children. That they realize that there is a much wider scope of, different beliefs and views. I think that's part of what helped me, is that we were the minority of being a Catholic family in a community that was 85% Jewish.
Yeah, it must have been a lot of fun.
That was
I mean, in
Yeah.
good ways.
so. I guess, and I guess moving on to you, Lavender Lady. Did you come from it? And I apologize because I have seen a lot of your videos, but I haven't
Oh, thank
gone
you.
too far back. Yeah, I first came across you on. I'm having a mental blank on the show name. ACA
I've been on
show. I was on it as well, which makes it even worse.
HCA,
With Dan,
truth seeking or seeking
Truth
truth. or
Wanted. Truth Wanted.
Truth wanted. That's it.
Yeah, that's where I first came across you. So I have seen some of your stuff, but I'm actually not familiar with your background. So, do you come from a religious background, or?
Sort of, kind of. I come, as recovering Catholic does, from Roman Catholicism. I gave up Catholicism for Lent about 40 years ago, but the cracks started forming about 10 years before that. See, about 10 or 11 years old, as part of the Catholic indoctrination. The cracks started forming. There was this thing that we had to do if we were not going to an explicitly Catholic school. It was called CCD, Confirmation of Christian Doctrine. One of the classes that was once a week in the evening, and the instructor was talking about euthanasia. Now, what he saw about kids in China, I'm not at all sure, but it was indeed about euthanasia. And he's going up and down the rows describing, okay, here's this old man. He's terminal, in great pain. He's begging to be released, begging to die. And you have the ability to fulfill his wish. What do you do? And of course, all the kids are towing the party line with, oh, he's got to live. He's got to live. He's got to live. He's got to live. Comes to this one over here. And first thing that comes to my mind is, well, I don't want to see the man. I don't want to make the man suffer that way. And this instructor literally screamed at me, but it's God's will. And I'm looking at him, and I'm not saying a word, but I'm thinking very loudly, that's a dickhead God you've got there, isn't it? I'm maybe 10 or 11 years old, and this is when the cracks are forming. Now, I did stick around because, you tell, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I don't believe in your God anymore. That's the sure way to get a lot of shit from them. And then, when I went to uni, I still would go to church because I liked singing in the choir, and the organist was really cute. But I was effectively out. Even then, I was just going. Like I say, the little girl behind the. Unfortunately, she was a senior in high school. I was a freshman in college, and Daddy wouldn't have been too happy about all that. But yeah, so I've been away from religion of any sort for about 2/3 of my life. And as far as the family, well, the really good thing about so-called family is those that are not dead don't talk to me. So that's really nice. I like that. And the whole thing is because I'm trans, but that's another story entirely. Last I knew, they were Catholics in name only. Rarely did they go to church. Those that did were basically Christmas and Easter Catholics.
The Creasters.
The creature.
But they would call themselves Catholic, and much as the slimy bastards did, they used that as a badge of identity. An us versus them sort of thing.
So that whole cultural kind of.
Yeah, you got it. A shibboleth, basically. And right there, we're talking about culture. So it's really not worth talking to them about anything. Well, like I said, they quit talking to me back in 2011. So it's just me being me. And the one thing that I wish I could do, Jay was talking about dealing with people that had different views, shall we say. And when I deal with a rabidly religious anti-science type person, just a little while ago, a couple days ago, I was arguing with somebody who was insisting that humans are not apes, humans are not animals. They are somehow special, endowed by their God with special. It was one of SJ's sycophants, as a matter of fact. That I was, SJ got the conversation started, but then this guy, his name was Ray or some shit like that. He actually blocked me after a while. And what I would really like to know is how to make the point such that a person like that can begin to understand. I mean, they don't have to have an immediate epiphany or anything like that. But, maybe if you can just kind of wedge the foot in the door a little bit. But they are so trained. It's this armor of God thing that they've got going, where they close everything out and form this shield about themselves. And I wouldn't care if they held that belief and that was it. But they do such incredible damage with it. Look at the educational system here in the U.S. I know you don't want to, but just have a look at it, and you will see what the religionists, the fundamentalists, the religious crazies have done and are doing.
Ohio.
Oh, God, yes. As you can answer the questions wrong on the test, and you still get it all right. You're
As
still
long as
getting
it
points
can
for
work
having it.
Up with that.
As long as it conforms to your religion. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you can also take your children out of school for homeschooling, and you can brainwash them exactly how you need them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfectly fine. And there are no actual guidelines that have that where they are standardizing the homeschooling, because they're just like,
Right.
well, okay, you say you've graduated high school in 8th grade now because you say you did.
Yeah,
say
my
you
friend
did.
Aaron.
So I guess this is something interesting, and I guess it brings it, I guess, almost full circle back to where we were before. Because if you've got someone who has been in that situation where they've gone to, I had that religious educational upbringing and haven't known anything else, if obviously they're going to hold a certain belief that isn't scientific, but it's not because of, well, it is ignorance in a way, but it's how they've been brought up and what they've been
Right.
taught.
There's also an emotional attachment form to it.
So as far as, I guess, communicating with those people, because it's, I notice that there's a lot of attacks on those religious people. How can we better communicate with them and say, hey, look, let us explain what the issues are and why they are, why you're wrong, but from a loving kind of place, rather than just doing the whole, your book sucks, your God is horrible, and here's why it's all wrong and garbage. How can we better engage with those people, I guess, to maybe not convert them, so to speak, because I don't think that's what we do, but maybe to help them understand, I guess, the science better, and I guess the point of view, I guess, that we're coming from.
I think it would be best to point out certain hypocrisies, like, especially with people who use religion to attack people. It's like, oh, really? Well, would this figure in your religion who says all of these different things about peace agree with that sort of thing? That seems odd that you're being told to do this, as well as just like starting off the conversation not saying necessarily, unless they are actively doing something
There we go.
wrong or rude, pointing out, there are a lot of people who take your faith and they bastardize it into all of these different ways, and it's harming people. And we're sure that's not what you want to do, right? Which it sounds very manipulative, but at the same time, it's like, it's something that will, at least at times, get people to be like, oh, no, I don't want to be that. Like, that sounds insane. And like, just getting them to a point of at least, like, somewhere in the midpoint. Like, don't aim for conversion, aim for a middle.
Like an understanding.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how successful that sort of thing is, because, okay, I'm not sure that most or many of these people can see a different way of thinking without chemical assistance. And I'm not trying to be a horrible person. I'm not trying to mock anybody, but I'm wondering if antipsychotic treatment is not necessary for some of these people, because they are so indoctrinated into the disordered thinking.
It's not even necessarily just psychotic. It's like it's the emotional attachment. Their religion becomes like a friend. You form an emotional attachment to your friend. So if somebody says something rude about your friend, you want to defend it. And that's what religion becomes for a lot of people, especially if they are raised upon a religion.
I think that analogy might be even better than you realize in a lot of ways. That a lot of people defending their religion, are like defending a friend. And it's like, if somebody says your friend is doing something wrong, you do have that immediate response to defend them. And you might think about what they did later and realize it was wrong.
Yeah.
But in that moment, defending your friend is more important.
And I guess to throw an analogy out there,
with so much time and investment on that, you don't want to call it out on there. So, like, even if they do realize the wrongs of their faith, they won't want to call it out after they've realized it either, because they've spent so much time and emotional value on it.
So I guess to throw an analogy out there, I know when it comes to my kids, it's myself and my wife, we might disagree on something, but we never do it in front of the kids. We'll talk about it after. So if one of the kids, for instance, comes to me and, I might agree with the kid, I'll always defend my wife. And I think it's a similar thing. To give you guys a bit of a background, and I hope I don't lose any people off the channel here. I am an ex-evangelical. I wasn't raised as an evangelical. I come from a reasonably atheistic, agnostic family, but I became born again, converted, and went down the path. Now, I look at views that I held when I was religious. Now, I was someone who was not for marriage equality and same-sex marriage, not because I had any issues with people who were that way inclined, but because it was purely from a biblical point of view. And that was always something that that pulled at me a little bit, because I couldn't make heads or tails of it. But it was something that it was just, okay, well, I don't know if I agree with it, but I have to go with what the Bible says. So I guess when I got out of religion, one of the things that I had to educate myself on was a lot of the issues that I hadn't been exposed to. So, I guess LGBTQ plus issues, trans issues certainly was something that I didn't really have an opinion on, because I'd never had any exposure to it or any understanding of what people were going through. So I guess how can we get messages out there in a way that that's easy for people who are transitioning or beginning to transition out of religion, do you think?
I can tell you from my aspect, talking to someone in the community will help a lot. I was extremely ignorant about trans issues and the whole transgender thing until I talked to Diana and Jen on one of my very first streams, and they helped me out a lot. So if you can get somebody to actually sit down and have a conversation that knows the topic or is going through the topic you're having, will help them immensely. I mean, from when I started that stream to the time I ended that stream, my view was completely changed. I when I went into that, I only thought there was male and female. That was it. I didn't think there was anything else in it. But by the time I was done into that, Jen and Diana and May opened my eyes to so much more, and realized that there was so much more going on in that aspect. And that was just by sitting down, having a conversation, and being willing to listen to what they had to say.
Well, thank you.
So
sincerely.
And
I know that probably just the conversations I've had with Jen from Jen's Little Corner, that's probably opened up more than any research I ever could have done. Has probably opened, and it was funny because I didn't realize Jen was transgender when I initially spoke with her. It just did not occur to me. So I was a little bit surprised to find out. But it was, I guess it is good to be able to have those conversations and to have them in a respectful way. I guess moving on. Yeah, sorry.
I think, like, if you're researching it, it may change your views on an intellectual level. But until you know a person affected by it, it will not change your views emotionally.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I'm just going to be very rude for 2 seconds, guys. I've got to go and top up my water. It's like I mentioned before, it was 35 degrees or so when I started the stream, and I'm pretty sure it's warmer now. So If you see me drinking water, that's because it is like I'm doing my best not to evaporate at the moment. So I'll let you guys talk amongst yourself for the next 30 seconds or so, just while I top my water up.
Yay! God, it's amazing what you guys have to deal with. The summers seem to be so much more brutal in Australia than they are in North America, for example.
Yeah, when I was in the Navy, excuse me, I went 4 years without snow. And only one time did I ever see it drop below 30 degrees Fahrenheit in 4 years. So when I moved back to Michigan and hit that first winter again, I was like, this is crap. Send me back to California or back over to Japan somewhere. This snow crap is for the birds.
Yeah, because I don't know how much of it is the natural thing, because the Earth is at perihelion now. So that will have some effect on the summer in the southern hemisphere, but how much of it is anthropogenic climate change as well?
I guess from my point of view, it is hot at the moment, but it's probably no hotter than it's been. From what I can see over the years, I guess growing up, it's 40 degrees in summer isn't common, but it isn't uncommon at the same time. Possibly we're having a few more hotter days, but we're not getting, I guess, temperatures we're not getting record temperatures or anything like that. We're probably just getting it a little bit more frequently. I know it has been a pain because we've got the fires happening. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's happening over here with all the fires.
I was just going to ask you if you're still on fire.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
one of
we
the
are still
things I have
absolutely
to-
still on fire.
I wonder about, is that the hole in the ozone layer that they say extends over southern Australia now, that
Yeah,
even
we-
if
we've
that's
had- we've
not
had that for years.
actual heat, is that it's pumping other radiation, other energy into the ground there. And
Interestingly,
is that
the
increasing
whole
the heat in that way.
no, the hole in the ozone layer has actually been shrinking. It's been repairing
I
for
was gonna
about
say
Well, I know it's gone
about
down,
15, 20
but
years.
still.
Yeah, it's it was. I remember growing up because it's always it's every second ad was put sunscreen on, protect yourself. It's very easy to get sunburned, especially for someone who's fair skinned like myself. So it's constantly putting on sunscreen, wearing a hat everywhere. But it's probably from that aspect, it's probably gotten a little bit better over the last 10, 15 years, I guess. And that's probably a little part of that is the hole in the ozone layer is shrinking. And I say that as someone who's not a scientist, but that's what I.
I knew it was
that's what they
shrinking.
tell
I
us.
didn't know how
Yeah.
much of a difference it had made yet.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the rate was.
If I look back to when I was a kid, it's probably a slightly noticeable difference. But that being said, I wouldn't go outside now for an extended period of time without throwing on a ton of sunscreen and all the rest. Probably the only thing that's really kept us safe the last sort of few weeks is because there's been so much smoke in the air. A lot of the sun hasn't gotten through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christmas Eve for us was just full of smoke.
Well, I know
When I
that was a
went to
problem here in California too, that with the wildfires being so bad, that actually the farmers were realizing there weren't as many sunny days, so the crops weren't ripening.
Well, and in Australia, where we're a little bit different to the US is, or most places in the world, is the vast majority of our population lives on the coast. So, you got Sydney. So we've got about a population of about 22 million. There's about 5 million in Sydney, 4.5 in Melbourne, about another 2.5, 3 in Brisbane, and the majority of it is on the east coast. So we do have the national parks and a lot of bushland surrounding our major cities and major areas. So when it goes up, it can, if it's in a certain part of the country, it can really affect a massive part of the population. Where the fires are at the moment, it's essentially going through the state of New South Wales, a little bit of Queensland as well, but mainly New South Wales, which is New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria are all sort of on the east coast, and they're where the vast majority of the population is. So Sydney's in New South Wales, Canberra's in in the middle of New South Wales in the ACT, our capital. Brisbane's just on the southern Queensland border, so it's almost New South Wales. And Victoria's a small state. It's about the size of Texas, which is a small state for us. So they're all sort of that whole population centre is fairly close. So when our parks and when our wild areas go up, it's quite hard to get out because of the big distances we're dealing with, and it does affect so much of the population. It's certainly it's not good at the moment, but it seems to be getting under control.
The whole sunscreen thing was funny. When Purple and I went to the Noah's Ark protest,
The Ark Encounter,
yeah. I remembered to do the sunscreen, throw on the arms and whatever else. I forgot to do my feet, and I was wearing sandals. I still have the marks on my feet from the heavy tanning that occurred in beginning of July. And it's mid-December, and I can still see where the leather of the sandals fell and where it didn't. It was amazing.
Now, I didn't use the sunscreen at all And the only thing that got burnt was my forehead, which makes no sense because I was wearing that huge mask half the time.
Yeah, you were. Oh my.
Now, I'm going to move on to something a little bit more lighthearted rather than my country burning.
Okay.
And I want to play a bit of a game with you guys, and also
really?
anyone in the chat. So now, I hope you don't have this one playing purple. If you do, we might have to negotiate. But I guess what I want to do is I want to bring up, and I did this on a stream the other night, so apologies if it's doubling up for anyone, but it didn't go too well the other night. I'm hoping it goes a lot better now. So what I want to do, I want to go through a few people and names, and I guess talk about the best thing that they could have gotten for Christmas this year.
Oh
Or
my.
what you would have gotten for Christmas this year. So it was interesting
This
that
year.
it was interesting that Lavender Lady just. Sorry, do you prefer Lavender Lady or Diana? What would you prefer?
I'm easy. I mean, Diana's great. Lavender Lady works. Lavender works. Hey, you even gets my attention.
Well, that's me.
The only one of the very few things I would not want you to call me is Edward.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's my dead
I
name.
promise I won't call you that.
Okay.
So it was interesting that you brought up the Ark Encounter before, which is it's, in a weird way, it's something I actually do want to go and see it just so I can stand there and shake my head at it one day. But the first person, I guess, what would you get this person for Christmas? Ken Ham. What would we get Ken Ham for Christmas? What should we as well?
Clozapine.
Who is this?
Ken Ham,
Ken Ham.
The guy responsible for building the Ark Encounter.
the Ark Encounter. Do you not know who Ken Ham is?
Answers
No.
to Genesis.
You have to go to
Oh,
Apologia's
yeah.
channel
You are
and
truly
watch his
blessed.
ham and egg series.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul Rips
Yeah.
get a new one every time. I love him for it.
And that I love that intro. The ham and eggs.
Ham and eggs.
Oh, thank you for that. I keep asking what people think is the worst earworm. Is it Apologia's ham and eggs, or is it Conspiracy Cats ending music? Either one of those is going to be stuck in my head all week.
Oh man! Well, I made a point, and this was not accidental; it was intentional. When you and I, Purple, went down to the protest, I wore my Apologia T-shirt down there. I definitely wanted to see a picture or two. Get back to Ken.
Well, that could be a good present for Ken. Maybe Apologia shirt.
There you go.
There we go. Yep. That
There's a
would-
doorknob set an autographed picture of Apologia.
Well, I was thinking flood insurance could be a good thing to
There you are.
chip into the Ark Encounter. I know they've been struggling to get it, so apparently the boat won't float.
Oh
So they
my,
told me.
oh my! Yeah, we didn't get to see the inside during that protest. No, I mean,
Yeah. Well,
really didn't
I
care
will
about
not
going
see
in
the
anyway.
inside just because I do not want to give him any of my money.
Well, thank you for reminding me. Let me go to Side Strike's channel because Jeff and another of our number, Sean Hufford, went to the Ark Encounter and filmed their visit. Jeff presented it in a series, a video series. So I'll see if I can put up at least the first one and see if he's got.
While you're looking for that, I just want to say to Doorknob Head, the ticket to Australia, we have a no returns policy. Unfortunately, we've sent him there. You guys have bought him, and unfortunately, we're not taking him back.
I'm telling you, we're going to ship his ass back to you.
Incidentally, and just as a side note, myself and a few other Aussie content creators were actually working on a roast of Ken Ham and an apology to America for sending him out there. And we're planning on doing on Australia Day, which is the 26th of January for us, but it'll be the 25th for you guys. So keep an eye out. And we're looking for a few North Americans who might want to jump on and accept the apology on behalf of your entire continent. But so the next person that
Do we have anyone from Kentucky?
Yeah.
Okay, this might be a good.
Yep.
Start. Let me get the thing over here. We'll copy and we will
Well,
paste.
if you
This
want, you can
is
actually share the stream. You can actually share the screen if you want on StreamYard.
This is a link to a playlist. It's a YouTube playlist. It's let me see, how many videos do we have? 16 videos. This may not be the series that I participated in, but it's a good start, and you can just go from there. And there is the last 3 films are from the encounter that I had, the protest Purple and I attended. 3 of the speakers.
Now, it actually mightn't let you share the link because I probably haven't got you as an admin. So if you just want to quickly post something in the chat quickly, and I'll make you an admin so you can share that. We'll do that. And while we're doing that, I guess the next person that what do we get them for Christmas? I'll go to a more friendly one. What do you get Aaron Ra for Christmas? What do we get Aaron?
Booze.
Oh
Booze.
man, yeah.
Beer
But
of the
it's
month
got to
club.
be some high quality stuff, nothing cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man,
Beer of the month club.
that would be a pretty darn good one. Yeah, with the top of the line beers, because oh God, the beers he drinks are amazing.
I'd have to give a flask of flavored whiskey.
Okay, that might work. Some really good cigars. I was startled to discover that he smoked cigars. I thought he was a non-smoker, but he at Jim Helton's house after the protest, he lit up and was like, "Oh wow, you smoke cigars?" He said, "Yeah," and it's okay, fine, because I used to smoke. I quit a year and a half ago, and most of what I smoked were cigars and a pipe. Yeah, really feminine,
Hey, my wife loves to smoke Cuban cigars, so it's
All right.
I hope that didn't come across wrong. But no, there's nothing non-feminine about smoking cigars, I don't think. So I think I'd have to send him some of our famous Australian beers. We're known as a country of beer drinkers down under here, so I'd probably got a few that might tantalise his taste buds. So I guess we're
Send
going to
him
move
some
on.
pastas.
Foster, no.
We had this conversation already.
No one drinks Foster's in Australia. It is just the worst beer. It is terrible. We have so much better than that.
My understanding is that Foster's is slightly worse than canned piss.
Oh no, I think that's to insult canned piss.
I'm actually going to have to get going as I do have work in the morning.
Yep.
But it's
No
been
worries.
lovely chatting with all of you.
Hey, thanks for coming on, and I'd actually love to get you on my channel sometime because I think we could have some really interesting conversations. So I'll flick you a message on Twitter, and we'll tee something up.
See, everybody's after you now.
They are.
That's it. You've done a stream. You're famous. You're in demand.
Yeah.
You can start charging for appearances, but not until after you've been on my channel.
Yeah.
Charge after.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you very
Night.
much.
Nice sweetness.
Yeah, with the Fosters, I don't like beer of any kind myself, but my understanding is that they had to market the Fosters in Australia because they couldn't get anyone there to drink it.
Pretty much spot on. There's a beer called Crown Lager, and that's it. It's always been it used to be the nice fancy beer. You'd always get a carton of Crownies at Christmas time. And the rumor for many years was that was the top part or the good part of the Fosters, and the rest of the bad stuff all got sent overseas. But no one drinks Crownies anymore. It's sort of like we've got so many like craft breweries and nice little boutique things that have popped up, and we do like a beer. As if you watch Friday Night Six Pack, you'll generally find out. So what would we? Yep.
There is a beer from Germany called Fucking Hell, and I dearly want some. It is actually called Fucking Hell. Fuck is the town in which the brewery resides, and Hell is German for light. It's a light colored beer, not a dark beer. So the name actually is real and everything else. I want to try this shit just to have the bottles around.
I don't care. I don't care if it is good.
Fucking hell, you know.
Yeah. It's like I got a
So
can
you
of
sound
whoop
like
ass
you're
somewhere.
wasted having your first one.
So what would we get now? This is a contentious one, and I guess I'll leave this to you guys. What would you get President Trump for Christmas? Everyone goes quiet. We can
Well, I
move
mean,
on.
he's already got all the money to buy anything he would want. So
Oh, I've got it. Send him 10 grams of cobalt 60 unshielded. That would
I
work.
have no idea. I have no idea what that is.
The radiation would kill him in minutes.
Oh, okay.
okay, I was going to be nice, and I was thinking that we should send him an actual decent toupee.
Oh man.
Oh dear.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm not going there.
I'll move on to someone a little bit more popular. And what do we get? Ray Comfort.
You know, it's like I like
The
orange,
banana.
but Trump is.
Yeah, there you go. Case of bananas.
Now, I just want to point out too, Ray Comfort is from New Zealand. He is not from Australia. We have nothing to do with him, and we only claim Kiwis when they do something of notable that we like. Ray Comfort, definitely not.
Well, he blocked me recently, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
He hasn't blocked me, and I have been giving it to him on a few things. Same with Ken Ham, actually. I figured I would have had to have been blocked at some point, but
Oh man, Ham's had me blocked for years.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm an Aussie. He thinks he might think we're friends or something.
As a matter
Aussie
of
with a
fact, Ham is the first one to block me. Then
I'd wear that as a
then
badge.
Eric Hovind, and then Ray Comfort.
Yeah, nobody's noticed me yet, so none of the big names have got around to blocking me.
I'm the same. I feel a bit left out. So, all right. So bananas for. Well, speaking of Hovens, what do we get Kent Hovind for Christmas? I'm thinking a book with real science in it.
Oh, man, he wouldn't know what to do with
I
it.
think more than the science, he's the one who needs a book on ethics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, but wasn't it all a big conspiracy why he was jailed for fraud, even though there was recordings? I love that. That cracks me up.
Yeah.
All right. So
Get him
I
a nice
missed
orange
Thomason.
jumper. Get him a nice orange jumper.
Mhm. Well, he's had one of those.
Yeah,
I was
let's
gonna
give him
say-
another one for
Okay.
remembrance. We didn't want you to forget.
All right. So to a friendly one now. Matt Dillahunty. What does Matt Dillahunty need for Christmas this year?
Oh my.
I really only know about his work. I don't really know anything about him personally.
Yeah, me either.
We had only the most cursory of interactions. I asked about the theory behind the story of Jesus of Nazareth. With a little idea, was that the possibility that this was Paul trying to deal with the death of this guy, or the community trying to deal with the death? He basically said, "Well, I never heard of it," and now it's a trending thing. So, that can happen in 6 years.
See, I'd be thinking for Matt, I believe he's a big gamer, but I believe he's a PlayStation gamer. So I'd buy him an Xbox just so he can convert to the light side of the Force.
Okay, that kind of gamer. Okay. Whenever I hear that, I think of my ex, who was the kind of gamer she was not the good kind. She played games.
Ah, yes. Plenty of those around, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anyone else you guys can think of that you'd like to mention? Or we could...
Well, S.J. Thomason, what would you buy her?
A muzzle.
She's the young Earth creationist. Is that right? I've heard the name, but I have no idea who that is.
Well, she's the armchair evangelist or armchair apologist from Tampa.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's most noteworthy for saying horrible things when people have died.
Mhm.
Oh, a bit like a what was it? Who were those lunatics that used to go around picketing funerals?
Westboro
Yeah,
Baptist
that was
Church.
Westboro Baptist.
That's it.
Yeah.
Is she one of them? Is she or like that?
No, she's not connected with them. It's just like on Twitter. When somebody died, she told his widow that, well, he's burning in hell now.
What? Who
Yeah,
does that? Like, seriously? Who
Yes,
does
when
that?
Squircifer died, she told his wife that, and it was like, Jesus Christ. Leave it alone, SJ.
There's just horrible people in the world, unfortunately. There's not a lot we can do. See, that's the kind of person, like, I know I was talking about how we can be kinder as a community before, but that's the kind of person who you need to call out their bullshit. You need to, even though they probably like the attention, I think it's important to call out that bullshit.
And when you call her out, she plays all innocent.
How can they possibly play innocent? And
Well, with the Squircifer thing, I think I remember her saying, "Oh, I don't remember saying anything like that." We're showing her right here, Stephanie, and it's like she's still not getting it.
the old Shaggy defense. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh dear, it's all you scratch your heads with that sometimes. So I think we've got about half an hour to go, and I've got to find something to fill because obviously the bad present one that's going to be on in half an hour on Purple's channel.
Yeah.
So and you're the last one in the relay, aren't you? So this will be. So is it?
Yeah,
is
mine's the wrap
Christmas
up.
ended, yeah? You
Because
guys, or?
I'll start in half an hour, and then if I run for 2 hours, that's going to bring it to be midnight on the west coast of North America.
Wow. So it's been a pretty long run. So what? So I guess to talk about this whole the relay, what's inspired or where? Because you've kind of taken it by the horns and really kind of run with it. What was the thought behind it?
Well, I've just I've known enough people who just didn't have family, got very depressed on the holidays. For me, I've said half jokingly but half serious that having a project to do today gave me an excuse to avoid my family today. But
And I think
actually, I'll repeat this. I'd said this in one of the streams earlier today. I think we may have actually saved a life last night, because the reason that it took me 2 hours from when I was trying to sign off of Jay's stream to when I actually got to bed is I was dealing with some conversations privately in Twitter.
Okay.
And one of them was somebody who was saying that they really didn't know if they wanted to wake up on Christmas Day, and implying that they had enough pills around to make sure that didn't happen.
And have we heard from that person today?
Yeah,
or?
but just finding out that there were this many people out there, that there would be somebody they could talk to all day, that seemed to make a difference.
Yeah, and it is something that's important. I think, especially as a community, we need to realise that, I guess, some of us are more fortunate than others, and I think we just need to be there for each other. And I think what you've done with this stream, I mean, I said it before you came on, I absolutely take my hat off to you, because it's to organise it. I could see the stress as you were on Twitter as you were organising everything, and a lot of the things and the organisation that went on in the background for it. And really, I absolutely want to commend
you. Did so much of it, I
absolutely, yes. Sorry,
pulled it together without her. But also,
very organised, Pirate Kitty.
Where I'm living now, I'm in a red pocket of a blue state.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel
the other way
very
around,
isolated where I live. I cannot, be public about most of my beliefs. It would not go over well. So if it was not for the internet, I would literally go weeks at a time without talking to anyone I'm not related to.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah,
I don't know if I could live through something like that.
That'd be difficult, I'd imagine.
It's also a new experience for me, because I've always lived in a reasonably big enough city, that I could be out in public about things. I've never had to try and keep things under wraps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big issue that you guys have got in the States. I know we're fortunate here in Australia where probably 10% of the population is church going. So where I guess we're fortunate is we don't have a lot of that bullshit baggage that you guys are dealing with. Unfortunately, we also don't have the support structures in place for people getting out. But so when you say a red state, that's red for you guys is Republican. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. It flips the other way here. So this will really confuse you. So our blue is our Conservative Party, which is also called the Liberal.
Yeah.
So our Liberal Party is our Conservative Party, if that makes sense. Probably not, but they're blue.
No, it doesn't.
And our left-wing party, which is the Labor Party, is the red one. So I've always got to adjust in my head when you're talking red and blue. And I think it's the same in the UK as with us in Europe.
That's really one of the weird things about Michigan is that, that the labor unions were a big thing here. So you'd think that there would be a lot more support for that, but not as much so as there should be.
Now, and as far as, sorry?
Do I take it that there are some in your governments that are trying to tear things apart? There's some religious crazies over there, or do I have the wrong idea?
No, look, it's and I'm actually going to do a video on this because I know Mr. Atheist put a video out and it was incredibly factually wrong. Now, I'll say this, and I'll throw my hands up and say I've got a bias. I am right-leaning, so right-leaning in Australia. What there is...
I'm slightly to the left of Bernie Sanders. So.
It's also been pointed out that in the Australia or UK, right-leaning is what would have been considered centrist in America not long ago.
Yeah, definitely. So what we've got is we've got a religious discrimination bill that's about to be passed, and it's basically the way we're set up is each of the states at the moment can legislate on religious issues in their own way, which can mean that, say, in one state, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you can refuse to have your child have a blood transfusion, whereas in another you can't. And in some states there's things you can say and do. In some states, kids can be kicked out of, say, a Catholic school for being gay, which is it's something that's been out of the control of the federal government. Now, the UN Human Rights Council actually identified it and said it's something that Australia doesn't have a federal anti-discrimination law. Or religious discrimination law to deal with these issues. So we're actually going through a process where we're going to legislate something into law. We're going through what's called a consulting phase. So we're similar to the US where we've got a lower house and then we've got a Senate. So what will happen is in the lower house, it's all controlled by the one, or it's the majority is the one party, which is our right-leaning party. Which that's where the Prime Minister comes from. But then our upper house, which is the Senate, it's a bit of a mix. And then we've got a stack of minor or independent parties who sort of sit in the middle, who control the balance of power. So there's always a bit of back and forth and negotiating, but it's in it. So a lot of the churches, non-religious groups, legal groups are putting forward submissions at the moment to sort of say what they think should be in the bill, shouldn't be out of the bill. But it's actually something that's got bipartisan support. So it's it's a matter of working out exactly what goes in, because it's people are sort of saying, oh well, the whole the Christians refusing to bake a cake will be part of it. That's actually a Christian can refuse to bake a cake in Australia now. Anyone can basically refuse or depending on the state, they can be refused. So it's a pharmacist can refuse to sell birth control, but where we're different, our pharmacies here, the pharmacist owns the pharmacy or runs the pharmacy. So if they don't, they just wouldn't stock it. But it hasn't been an issue here. But I guess having things starting to become entrenched in law is bringing a little bit of it into the light. But because our Prime Minister is a little bit of an anomaly in he's a Pentecostal Christian. He's not like he's open about his faith, but it's not like in the US where they're really over the top with it. He just kind of says, this is my faith, this is what I believe. He'll show up at he'll say, he's praying for the people who are affected by the drought and the fires, but that kind of seems to be the extent of it. And once again, I'll point out, I say this with political bias. But because he happens to be the Prime Minister at the time that this law is getting passed, there's a little bit of a scare campaign going on in some parts of the media where it's all of a sudden, they're almost painting as if we're going to be living in a theocracy, which we won't be. And I'd be the first one jumping up and down if we were. All that's happening is things like, say, the kids in Catholic schools who can currently be kicked out if they come out as gay. That's going to be stopped. So what will now happen is there's going to be a best interest of the child clause put into it that's got support from all parties. So that'll actually stop that. So there's some stuff that will be entrenched in law, like, maybe the Christians baking a cake, although none of it's been finalised yet. But then other things will be absolutely defended, like those kids and the kids' rights, and certainly the rights of certain institutions to be able to not or to take away their ability to discriminate. Because if something a business is owned by a religious group, like the Seventh-day Adventists own a company called Sanitarium, which makes Weet-Bix. Do you guys wouldn't have Weet-Bix there?
What?
Okay, if you don't, okay. So Weet-Bix is the biggest cereal sold in Australia. It's like
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
like Kellogg's over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they own. So that's owned by the Seventh-day Adventists. So technically, at the moment, they can discriminate based on a number of things that don't fit within their religion. So
sort of like Hobby Lobby over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that ability under the new laws should actually be taken away. So things like churches, the Catholic Church will be able to discriminate in that they won't have to employ female priests, so things like that. So where it directly relates to the religion, but it frustrates me because it's and as someone who sits on the right side of politics, it does my head in that the atheist community on general seems to have this opinion of people on the right, even though a lot of us tend to have, I guess, the same views as people who are on the left. Like a lot of us are socially liberal, economically conservative.
Yeah.
But these laws will be a good thing, and all sides, like even the Greens, they are to the left of Bernie, or they're probably about Bernie Sanders, maybe to the left of Bernie Sanders, but even they're on board with this having to be introduced.
I wanted to clarify a bit of background there. That how many active parties do you have in most elections there?
So normally we've got the two major parties. So the Liberal Party, which is our right-leaning party, and the Labor Party, which is our left-leaning party. Although you probably, when you compare them to the Democrats and the Republicans, even though they do have fringes that are further to the left or further to the right, generally they're reasonably centrist. There was actually a joke going. Our last Prime Minister was a guy called Malcolm Turnbull, he was in the right-leaning party.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
And we had the leader of the opposition was Bill Shorten. And we actually said they were both in the wrong party. It's Bill was probably more right-leaning than Malcolm, even though one was in one party. So we are pretty centrist in our politics in general. But then we have the Greens as well. They tend to take a chunk of the left-leaning vote, and occasionally we'll have some minor right-leaning or far-right parties that'll pop up here and there. But generally, it'll always be a contest between the Liberal and the Labor parties.
Yeah, but you still at least have a third party who will, take a couple of seats in the legislation.
Normally, it'll be independents. So the way for every 100,000 people, roughly, there's one seat in the lower house of Parliament. You'll get some areas where they've got a popular local who will take the seat as an independent. I think there's one Green currently in the lower house. And the rest, I guess the rest of the crossbench is independents.
Okay. Personally, I don't give a shit about who bakes a cake for whom. What I give a shit about is that in several states here in the U.S., if I am involved in an accident and, somebody's got to cut away my trousers or something, they can take a look and say, no, we're not treating you, even though you're bleeding all over the road.
So that wouldn't happen in Australia.
Yeah.
Absolutely wouldn't happen in Australia. That would, if someone did that, they would be sent to jail.
Yeah,
That
that's
has
the
been
part that
enshrined
bothers
into-
me is that they have clarified in the U.S. that even in
Yeah.
an emergency room setting, a doctor can refuse to treat a patient based on a religious belief.
Yeah. And the
What
whole
possible
thing
religious
is
belief
that
could be- Yeah, that's crazy.
the anti-trans sentiment, for example, is not a religious belief. Sorry.
Well-
Right. No, you're right. You are 100% right. It is not a religious belief.
Well,
It is
you know,
not a
where
religious
this
belief.
is bound to backfire is sooner or later it's going to happen that you're going to have a doctor who's a Muslim who's going to refuse to treat somebody because they're Christian.
Oh man, I would be cheering when that happened.
It's going to
Sorry, I
happen
would be.
eventually.
Yeah.
Now,
And
well,
that
in
person will be
Australia,
protected.
and yeah, this law that's coming into Australia will that'll see people jailed for stuff like that. But you couldn't do that here anyway. And I guess it's something I guess the rest of the world doesn't realize as much. You guys do have it really, I guess, really difficult over there as far as the influence that I guess religion has and religious sort of as far as your politics and your legislation. It's incidentally though, I did love it when the Satanic Temple tried to get the statue of Baphomet put outside
Yeah.
the state capitol. That was absolutely.
I have sent
that was
money to
really
the
crazy.
Satanists on a couple of occasions for them doing publicity stunts like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
me-
they're great.
me-
I love those guys.
Raven and myself are both members of the Satanic Temple.
All right. I wanted to get to one of the local Satanist coffee clutches, and unfortunately, I must have had the day wrong or something. I showed up at the right place, but at the wrong time or whatever, and never heard again about when the next one was.
Okay.
You
Is
know,
it-
they're another group that even while I was a pagan, the pagans had a lot of problems with the Satanists, and I really didn't understand what they were really about and what they actually believed in until I got into the atheist community.
Okay.
So yeah, they need a
Yeah,
little
well,
more
I
PR
know-
work.
I know when I was a Christian, they were certainly seen as, they weren't taken too seriously, but we just thought they were people who were just trying to, rebel against God. They hated God for whatever reason because something had gone wrong in their life. But now that I'm out of that bubble, I do enjoy the work they do. I think it's we need a lot more, even in a few little things here in Australia. I guess we probably need them to pop up a little bit more and cause a bit of mischief here. But look, we don't have it as bad
I
as you
think the
guys
pagans
do.
had a very reactionary thing to them, just because all the Christians were trying to say all pagans were Satanists, so they had to try and separate themselves from that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the Satanists I know are functionally atheists.
Yeah.
Well, it is an atheist movement, isn't it? It's just essentially.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's why I didn't really understand until I was in the atheist groups.
Mm-hmm.
That most of them don't literally believe in anything.
they just want to make sure that they can stick it to the Christians and stop that or keep that separation of church and state happening. So
Yeah, they just want to use it to illustrate the point that people should be able to practice anything they want.
Yeah, and
are you right?
the whole Levian Satanism, that was a lark, definitely. A big joke, and they knew it. They were perpetrating the joke. The Anton Sandro LaVey thing. And I used to have a copy of that Satanic Bible. I don't know what happened to it. It was just cribbed from so many places. There was a lot of objectivism in there, good old Ayn Rand, and a few other things. And I don't think there was an original word in it. But it was fun.
Just a bit of a piss take, as we'd call it here, I guess. So I guess
Growing
we'll.
up saying that supposedly his name's on the back of the Baphomet statue. So I'd like to hear the story about how he got that, or was that just something they did if you made a contribution?
Yeah, actually, let us know about that because I wouldn't mind getting my name on the back of it as well. Okay, so it was a donation. Looks
Nice.
like we're all putting some money in for the Satanists then.
Yeah, that's
So-
it. It was one of the
Yeah.
times where they were trying to put it on the Capitol. I think it was in Mississippi when they're trying to get it moved to the Capitol. So I sent them
Would
some money
the,
to cover
oh-
part of the expense of them trucking it over there.
Because I'm trying to remember, were they supposed to set that up in Oklahoma and somehow it didn't work and they trucked it somewhere else? And
Yeah, it's been moved all around the country, so they spend a lot of money just on the truck to move it around.
Yeah, anytime somebody wants to put like the Ten Commandments or something up on like state land, they go, all right, well, we're going to put this statue with it too, and they go,
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
no.
And all of a sudden the law gets changed very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do you guys deal with, I guess, the religious fundament? I understand it's worse in the South. Is that right? Than
Well,
probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
southern
oh, yeah.
states, especially like Mississippi, Georgia, Louisiana, that cluster,
Oh, man,
is really where the
Louisiana's
most
horrible.
entrenched, deeply religious ones tend to be.
It's known as the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Well, that's where Kent Hovind's got his
Kentucky.
compound, isn't it?
Kent Hovind is in Alabama.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, Alabama.
Yeah, Ken Ham
that-
has the Ark in Kentucky, which
Ham's
is
in
kind of one of the
Kentucky.
border states between the North and the South.
Not so much anymore, because I'll tell you, Ohio has become a southern state.
Yeah. Yeah, politically, Ohio has swung that way over about the last 12, 15 years.
Oh,
It
yeah.
used to be more of a swing state, that it used to be more up for grabs.
I am so glad I'm out. I mean, not that Pennsylvania is that much better, but yeah, Pennsylvania, like Ohio, is one of those areas that has maybe 3 bastions of sanity. In Ohio, it's Cleveland, Columbus, and of all places, Cincinnati. Here in Pennsylvania, we have Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg. And the rest of the state is as red as a used tampon on a heavy flow day. I mean, it is that bad, especially here in southern Pennsylvania, around York, Lancaster, that sort of thing, where you have the Amish belt. I mean, these folks are as conservative as they come. And Ohio has a very significant Amish belt also through Massillon and just north of Columbus, that sort of thing. And it's very, very red. And
I've
not
never
fun at
ever
all.
understood the Amish. It's the Amish make zero sense to me. Like why you would want to trap yourself in 18th century technology.
Well,
It's not-
I would rather they do that than try to force it on the rest of us. This is where I wish that, okay, let's say Ken Ham and his sycophants would find a nice desert location where they could try to eke a living out of the sand and cast nets into whatever sea that they have nearby and just leave the rest of us alone and stay in the late Bronze Age or the early Iron Age and just stay away from us.
Now, the Amish, I can have a certain respect for their beliefs, even if I can't agree with them. But I think it largely boils down to that they're not comfortable using any technology they don't understand. I visited an Amish community, and one of the things is that they had a gas-powered thresher on a wagon that was pulled by a horse.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, well, and I asked them about that because it seemed an obvious contradiction. And they said it was pulled by a horse because you should not have any machine that can go faster than you can walk. Basically, the idea they don't want the technology to literally run away at a speed that somebody can't run up and catch it.
So with the Amish, I mean, will the Amish come into town and have conversations with people? I mean, do they stick to themselves? Are they social or?
They usually stick to themselves, but they do come in and they do, if you will, trade with the outside world. So they will come in for like farmers markets and such.
Yeah,
My mom and dad. Well, my mom and dad lived across the street from an Amish couple, just down the road here, and where the Amish is real heavy around where I'm at. and we talk to them all the time.
Yeah.
They're great, very nice
one of
people.
my cousins trades with the Amish frequently for meat and dairy products.
And they, the ones across the street from my mom and dad, where they used to live, they actually, what they did is they set up their own business where they built the walls for mobile homes. For well, they're not mobile homes anymore. The double wide manufactured homes, and that's what they did all day. Is they had the air compressor and some lights, but it was all the air compressors were only for putting the nails in. They sawed everything by hand. All that other stuff. The only technology they had were the lights and the air compressor.
And it also depends which particular group, because there are subgroups of them.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And some of them are okay with using the technology, but their community should never own it. And that one I find a little more convoluted to get my head around.
Sounds a little Mennonite when it comes
Yeah,
down.
you know,
I know
that,
that.
so it's okay for them to go to working somewhere where they use power tools, but they can't have them on their property.
And I know a number with cell phones. They're okay
Yep.
with that.
And a lot of them will have like one phone booth that is like just outside of their land.
Okay, see, I always thought that they, so from the sounds of it, the Amish will live in amongst normal communities, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
I always thought they always had their own like farmland or their own sort of closed off communities. But maybe that's a TV.
Yeah, well, I know around here where I live, there's a big area that's mainly Amish, but there are a couple, normal, up to date families that live in that same area, but most of the surrounding area is all Amish.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's a couple of different Amish and Mennonite communities just kind of throughout the upper Midwest, Minnesota, mostly Minnesota, but Wisconsin and Michigan have a few.
Yeah, you could have a really, really nice meal at a couple of the restaurants run by the Amish around Gettysburg.
Yeah. Actually, just the other day, something I was watching on TV, one of those America's Dumbest shows.
Oh no!
And, yeah, they actually had a segment of an Amish buggy trying to outrun a police officer trying to pull them over. Because apparently the guy driving the buggy didn't think he was subject to their laws.
Yeah, we've got a mercantile just down the road that the Amish own. It's great food. Homemade cheeses and breads and pies and I don't like going in there because I always spend way too much money.
Yeah, when I was living in Syracuse, New York, there was a huge store there of Amish built furniture.
Oh wow,
that's some good furniture.
Yeah,
that stuff will hold.
So we don't have.
It was kind of pricey, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you'd be handing down to your children and grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the Amish built Ken Ham's Ark, didn't they?
Yep.
Because that was
they had a hand in it. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had an Amish crew for framing it.
So we don't have the Amish here. We've got what's called the Exclusive Brethren in parts where I am. I don't know if you guys have got them there, but they're anti-certain technologies. They all have their own businesses and they all set each other up in business. They're all extremely wealthy, but there's no TV, I don't think they have telephones or no mobile phones. But then they've got some weird contradictions where fax machines are a sin, so they won't have fax machines. They won't have TV, but the internet's okay because they all need it for business now. So it's one of those interesting contradictions. But I've been they keep to themselves, but I've been to a few of their houses. I used to sell real estate years ago. And every time we went into a Brethren house, there'd be no TV. There'd always be big tables, the piano set up, and every room had more booze in it than you could imagine. It was like a bottle shop. So I think all they do is just sit around getting drunk. Now, we are going to end the stream soon because the relay will continue. We're going to pass the baton off to Purple. So I've put the link in. It's up on the screen now, but it's also in the chat. So make sure you do continue. We always, like any relay, you save the best for last. So, Purple, you're going to bring it home for us and for the atheist community. So I'll just quickly get everyone to say goodbye and let everyone know where they can find you. So
Well,
I might
actually,
start with you,
if
Purple,
you want to
because
keep
probably
going
gonna-
for a couple of minutes, I just need a few minutes to get set up here.
Yeah, we can do that. So, well, if you want, do you want to let everyone know where they can catch you normally, Purple, before you go?
Well, my YouTube channel is Purple Rhymes with Orange. Mostly I do live streams Wednesdays at noon Central Times and Thursdays at midnight Central Time. And I do some edited videos, hoping to get out more of those.
Mhm.
And on Twitter, it's Purple W Orange.
Excellent. And once again, I just really want to thank you for organising this, and definitely at some point we're going to have more of a chat, and I'll get, because it's really interesting, some of the things I think that were brought up during this stream that I guess I'd really like to unpack with you. So so definitely we'll have to have a chat further at in
Yeah,
the
just
future.
hit me up on Twitter.
I'll let
We'll
you.
arrange your time.
Definitely will, but I'll let you go and set up the next stream, so you're all right to go, and we'll move on to Jay. So
Okay, I'm going to drop out of here, and I'll catch you all in a few minutes.
Moo.
see you soon.
Hi, Purple.
So Jay, look, you're probably one of the most famous people on the internet now, aren't you?
I wish.
So so I know you mentioned a bit at the start, but there's probably a few people who might have missed the start. So what have you got coming up on the channel?
Well, Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern U.S. time is my normal stream, and we'll be going over Disney Necromancy Exposed. We were going to do there was a video that came out last week that said the world was going to end on December 21st, but that guy's channel is now gone. Jen went to look at it, and it's no longer there. So it's no sense poking fun at somebody that's not there anymore. So you can't go see what other nonsense he's got.
Maybe they got raptured. It could just be us left behind.
So we've upped the date, because we were actually going to do Disney next week, and we were going to do the 2021 this week, but he's not there, so we upped the date. So join us for that. And then I got some couple of video ideas coming down, but I'm not quite sure where I'm going with that. But like I said, if anybody's got some dumb tweets that you've seen, send them my way. Tony wants to do a video on dumb tweets, so that should be fun.
Okay.
So if you find any dumbass tweets of the day or tweets of the week that you've seen, you're going, this is just some stupid stuff, send them my way.
You do get some good ones.
I do.
You get some doozies. It's yeah. You must trawl through a lot.
Oh, I do.
So Diana, the Lavender Lady.
Yes, dear.
I guess let everyone know about I guess what you do, your channel, and where they can find you.
Well, I've got a couple things going. In fact, in my Lavender Lady channel, I have shows on Sunday and Wednesday. Sunday at noon Eastern, there's Coffee with Lavender, which the idea is basically one of these coffee clutch shows, like The View or one of Oprah's things or something like that. Just people sitting around, and I'm looking for guests to appear. Come on a Sunday and have a nice little interview, tell everybody what you do and who you are, and get you a little exposure that way. And also a chat show, an open chat on Tuesday evenings, called, of all things, The Open Chat. I have no idea where I got that name from, but it's what it is. And
very creative.
Just people having fun. And I have another channel called The Transgendered Chef, which I've had for a heck of a long time, but I'm starting to resurrect it again, which is basically a cooking show like Julia Child or like Jeff Smith, the French Chef or the Frugal Gourmet or that sort of thing.
Now, can you do a Julia Child impersonation now?
I don't know if I can do it correctly. I'm nowhere near tall enough, you understand. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly, but I brined and roasted a turkey from my most recent show. And the next show I'll be doing in about a week or so is going to be turkey pot pie. Where I'll make the pie crust myself, and I make a fairly decent turkey pot pie, if I have to say it myself. And
I'll be tuning
pull
into
out-
that one.
Oh, yay. And then I have a few things, some family recipes. I come from an Eastern European background. So are you familiar with things like chicken paprikash?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I make a chicken paprikash that will kill you, but you die happy.
You got me.
Okay,
I used to know I used to live near a Hungarian lady, and some of the dishes.
Yep.
There's a reason that I got fat. So
Yeah, we used to live next to a Filipino family. Oh, so good stuff.
And I do want to learn some of the traditional Asian recipes as well. I want to learn to cook Chinese. I want to cook Korean. See if we can bring some of that to the air, and just a little of everything. And some of it, I think, is going to end up being eating on a budget. Well, there's me, for example. I'm the only human here in the house, and so if I make a recipe that I would make for the family I thought I had when I thought I had a family, I'd be eating the damn thing for 2 weeks. But
you really want to like it then.
yeah, how do you cook for one? So that's something I would like to do on that show as well, and cook inexpensively as well, and things like that, and see if we can't. It would be just my luck if the transgendered chef took off better than the Lavender Lady did, but what the hell? I'll take it either way.
Now, are you ever up early on a Friday?
You cut out, hon.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, are you ever up early on a Friday time?
I could give it a try.
It's about 6 a.m. our time, Diana.
Yeah, because we've got to get you on for Friday night six pack. I think you would fit into Friday night six pack. I think you'd have a lot of fun with us. Actually,
that sounds like fun. Usually, I am up at 6 a.m. when I've been up all night, but we can arrange within a degree of luck that I can get my arse up at 6. Because what'll happen to me most of the time, I will wake up at like 4 a.m. but then I'll go back to bed. And then I won't get up until like 1400 hours or something like that. But if I can keep myself awake after having awakened at 0400, then yeah, sure, I can make 0600 or something like that.
I will absolutely send you. I'll send you the next few links, and I think you would fit into. I think you'd fit into the group quite well. Actually, I think you'd have a bit of a laugh, and it'd be good to have another non-Aussie voice on the channel. And yeah, you can, because we do need some people who it's morning time for, who can make sense as us Aussies progressively get drunk on a Friday night. So Saturday morning.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to think of who's there. It's you and Sam, Baker and Sam, and then there's Natcha and Nervardia, me.
Yeah,
Jen from Jen's Little Corner. So
yeah. I think we had we normally get Art in as well, so it's a bit of a mix. We have people come in and out, and always good fun. But you definitely get on well.
Any high power, intelligent, cute, nice lesbians who are single? There's one. There's one who won't have me. Damn it! But what can I tell you?
Well, you know what? We can find one for you. It's Australian women have got a reputation as the most beautiful in the world, and so my wife tells me. So, we'll see what we can find for you. I'm sure we can make. We'll sort you out. If there's one thing us Aussies are good at doing, we're very, very good wingmen.
Yay!
So we'll look after you. All right. Well, I'm Chris. I'm the Atheist Pastor. And, as you probably just heard, every Friday night we do Friday night six pack. So it's 9:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which is about 5:30, 6 o'clock, I think, for those of you on Central Time in the US, if from what Jay tells me. So, look, we'd love to have you on. I do other content where we debunk some of the more extreme views that some of your right wing or left-wing Christian lunatics have. There is a little bit of political talk, and generally we just like to have fun. I'm very much someone who wants to help people transition out of religion, knowing what it's like having been in religion. I know that getting out is difficult, so I guess as the atheist pastor, I want to be here to help people do that. So anyone who wants to have a chat, is transitioning out of religion, is in religion but not sure what they're doing, is out and just wants some support, or even anyone who wants to try and convert me back because they want to save my soul, send me a message at atheist_pastor on Twitter. If you haven't shared, subscribed, and hit all those bells and all that kind of stuff, please make sure you do that. Plus for all the guests who are on today and everyone who's hosted one of the streams. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. Make sure you go to Purple's channel, who should be starting momentarily if they haven't already. So thanks for joining us, and have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yay! Take care. See you on the